Surf's up, dudes and dudettes. You're listening to America's most tubular podcast, The Pod People. I'm Matisse Van Rossum, and don't call me a rat fink, or you might be the one whose rat gets finked.
I'm the king of the beach, Ben Sheets.
Hi, I'm Cleveland Mosier, and my job is bitch. I mean beach. Oh.
Well, yeah, I mean, Cleveland is back with us after being gone for 2 weeks because his job of bitch was too demanding for him to join us.
It's a hard job. It's not here for the bitches.
But we're sure as hell happy to have all three of the boys back together to cover this week's film, a Patreon pick from our honorary pod boy Micah, who has chosen a film from the year 2000 called Psycho Beach Party. I want to prime this discussion a little bit because, you know, at the end of last week's episode, you know, we sort of mentioned none of us had ever heard of this movie. I think it's very fair to say that this is an obscure film. But, you know, Ben and I watched it earlier this week, over at Ben's place on his nice big TV, like we do. And I think the two of us were, for not knowing anything about this movie, pretty pleasantly surprised. You know, we had fun with it. And then later that same night, we get a DM from Cleve in the group chat that was just like, I don't want to do this episode. I will, but I don't want to. And then refused to elaborate for 2 days. So, coming into this, I did not expect this to be a divisive episode, but of all episodes, I feel like this is a crazy one for us to have, like, hard-drawn battle lines on, but I guess we're gonna see. And I do sort of want to, like, take a minute to set up the film first, just so people have an idea of what it is. But after that, I am absolutely aching to hear some of Cleveland's first impressions.
Yeah, so, but all right.
So just real quick, as I mentioned, this came out in 2000. It is directed by Robert Lee King, who has not really directed anything before or since. I think he has like 4 credits in 35 years. Written by Charles Busch, based on his own stage play from 1987. And it is basically a sort of spoof of 60s era beach party, surf, Gidget kind of movies that were really popular in those days, B movies, and mixing that with a slasher. Hence your Psycho Beach Party, an incredibly creative title. So, you know, it's shot in the style of a 60s movie. It's very campy. It's definitely a comedy. And it's kind of a zany surf slasher psycho thriller.
Yeah. Well, you know, you mentioned it was written by Charles Busch, and he plays Captain Monica Stark in this movie, the police captain. Apparently in the stage play, he played Chicklet in drag. Which definitely checks out because, you know, that's very much a drag-coded protagonist and, like, been so much better. Story as a whole.
Oh my god, so many of the jokes are making so much more sense now. Just around Chicklet, like all the stuff where, like, she's just 16 and, like, all that, like, way funnier if it's, like a full-grown man in drag. Like, that makes so much more sense. Why didn't they do that? Anyway, all right, carry on.
Well, I do want to talk more about Charles Busch, because he's actually pretty interesting. I'd never heard of him. I was doing some reading up on him in preparation for this episode. I want to save that discussion for get into it a little bit. I am sort of just curious because, you know, like I said, Ben and I both thought this movie was pretty fun. Like,
yeah, we shared a lot of laughs.
I mean, I knew nothing about this movie, so I had no real expectations. But I was kind of expecting just kind of cheap trash, and I think that maybe technically it's cheap trash, but it feels like cheap trash made with some love and care and made me laugh a lot more than I was expecting. So Cleve, I gotta let her rip, brother. I need to know your experience.
Look, the reason why I wasn't feeling great about reviewing this film is very simple. It's that like I don't have the energy to like dunk on this film. It's not going to bring me any spiritual fulfillment or intellectual fulfillment to rag on this film and to get into it. So I'll keep it short. I don't think I have that much to say about it. That's part of my problem as well. I feel I would have a lot more to say about a film like Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island than this movie. To do a very long callback. At least with Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, I don't know. I feel like I can talk more about the craft, which there is here. There is some craft, in fairness. But my experience with this film was like, you know, when like you're hanging out with an old person and like they just kind of casually fart and like you just sort of both pretend to not notice it. It just sort of like, you know, it doesn't like smell terrible, so you just kind of carry on like with the conversation or with whatever you're doing, and just sort of like that's sort of how this film washed over me. Like I don't think I could really recall too many details of it in the 24 hours since I've watched it. I don't think I have all that much to say about it. Other than like I looked up some photos of the stage play that it's based on, and I thought that looked very fun. And I wish that I could have seen that instead of this film. But I didn't.
Was it the humor that just didn't hit for you at all?
What humor? What like I don't know, man. Like the guy rhymes. She does like wacky impressions, you know, she's like possessed by her afflictions or whatever. It just kept going, and there was just nothing. I don't know, man. Like I didn't really find it very funny. I thought the jokes didn't do a lot for me.
You didn't enjoy watching the burgeoning homosexual awakening of Yo-Yo and Provolone?
No,
I just constipation was solved by.
It's like every musical's B plot. Like it's fine. Like it's fine, and I'm not like out here to like get out here and battle in the fucking marketplace of ideas over like the quality of this film.
I don't think we are either.
Yeah, well, good, and because it's not what I'm here to do. But you know, like in terms of the quality of this movie, it's fine, and I tend to push back against like subjectivity all the time, because like there's always like universal framing that can be brought to something, like in talking about a film, particularly in terms of its quality. But in this circumstance, this shit is entirely subjective. I just personally didn't get much out of the film.
I think it might be kind of the viewing situation as well, because I think Tease and I had value in watching it together, because, you know, if one of us laughed, we could kind of vibe out the jokes a little bit more. But if you're just sitting down alone with a notebook.
I watched it with friends.
Okay, well.
Did any of them like it?
No, we all just kind of sat through it. Like, it...
Damn, that's wild. Like,
yeah, I don't know what to tell you then.
Jake was one of the people, and Spence, longtime guests on the show. Yeah, like we all watched it together. I was the most cynical going in. They were batting for it at the top. Like, for the record, like they were the ones who were like, "Nah, man, like, you know, just give it a chance." And then we all gave it a chance, and by the end, we're all just kind of, I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal. I just didn't get a lot out of the film.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I won't say that there was anything that I would describe as like uproariously funny or like gut busting or anything like that, but I think the cadence of like chuckles that I got out of this movie was like pretty consistent. Like I was pretty well entertained throughout its, 95-minute runtime.
It's a very silly and campy sense of humor too, right? Like,
yes.
Which is why I'm kind of surprised you didn't like it, Cleve, to an extent, because to me, like, that is, in some respects, your brand of humor in terms of like giving your character silly names or like having silly kind of quirks to characters. Like, I think of the wheelchair girl who's just exceptionally mean.
Yeah, who's extremely hot, so she's also very mean, but she's also in a wheelchair, so it's like she rolls up all unassuming and then is just like brutally passive aggressive. I'm also kind of surprised just because like you're like Mr. Old Movies.
Mr. Old Movies, and also I used to be a huge fan of musicals, right? Like I used to be all over that shit.
This is not a musical.
Yeah, but it's theater. It's theater kid coded, right? And I used to be like a theater kid. I grew up doing stage productions, and I think that's part of it. Is like I'm not saying like it's that kill the part of you that cringes silliness, but I think part of it too is just that like I didn't get anything out of this musical I didn't feel like isn't already like better written in fucking Hairspray.
Oh, okay, Mr. Hairspray over here.
So Hairspray isn't that great to me. Either.
I mean, in fairness, this would probably be better if it was directed by John Waters too. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
John, I do think this is a film of a particular style, and I was thinking of John Waters a lot during this one. I think that if I have like any major complaint about the film is that I wish it sort of pushed the grotesquerie a little bit more in the vein of John Waters.
Yeah.
I would compare this to more of something like Serial Mom in terms of like John
Sure,
Waters
yeah.
output rather than like Pink Flamingos. You know, it's not like that exploitation-y, but I think it does come from creatively it comes from the same school of camp that John Waters is interested in. And honestly, I think that you know, I don't think this is an incredible script by any means. Again, like there's nothing that like really had me in tears that I was laughing so hard. But I think that what really sort of charmed me about this movie is the craft, because like there are about a fucking bajillion sort of like genre parody movies that are sort of like aping the style of a particular decade of film or a genre or something that never quite sort of feel like they belong to the time period that they're sort of satirizing. And I mean, a great example of the inverse of that is something like Black Dynamite, right? Which is, you know, made in the 2000s, but looks and feels very much like a 70s blaxploitation film. And you know, I definitely would not put Psycho Beach Party on the same tier as Black Dynamite, but I was actually like pretty impressed by how well they captured the cinematic sensibilities of the early 1960s. I think that especially for like a cheap schlocky movie like this, like honestly, I was thinking about it after I went home. This movie is a lot of what I was wanting out of Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. Is that the name of that movie?
That's crazy to me. I literally said, while watching the movie, I said, this is Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 without the juice.
I think Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 is maybe like it has maybe some higher highs in terms of jokes, but in terms of like the filmmaking craft and what both films are like trying to do cinematically, I think Psycho Beach Party pulls it off way better than Dude Bro Party.
Really? I thought the cinematography was awful.
To me, I think it's the approach to the homage and the pastiche of everything. You know, yeah. I think where Dude Bro Party Massacre is very wink, wink, nudge, nudgy, and anachronistic, like, this feels oddly sincere in, like, its pastiche of, like, 60s movies and trying to emulate the same tone and feel. And it never feels like it's pulling overly from modern references. Like, most of the jokes feel like they're not super current in a way that Dude Bro Party Massacre kind of feels at times.
If I may, this is actually touching on one of my critiques of the film, is I agree. I think this film is sincere. I found it personally to be sincere to a fault. A great example would be the opening sequence, which is the girl like just sort of on a No. The opening credits. My mistake.
Credits.
The drive-in's all right, but like the opening
credits.
Like
it's just dances.
Yeah, well, dance. It's just one girl on the left, just kind of shimmying for like 2.5 minutes.
Classic 60s.
Like it is to a fault, I think. Like because it's like what else is there other than just that? Like than the pastiche. Beyond that, like what's the bit that they're doing with it? What is the satire?
It's funny.
I don't think it needs to be satirical in that respect. It's building onto the tone that it's establishing in the early minutes of the movie.
She's literally just standing there, like shaking back and forth while the camera punches in and out, while like the credits roll, like flash up on either side of her. It's like that's the joke, because like it's playing on like the kind of like goofy opening credits of stuff like the early James Bond movies and stuff like that, but it's doing it without all of the grandeur. Like I think that's the joke. Like that's what I took. I thought it was funny. I really liked the opening credits.
And that's kind of what camp is meant to be, right? Like camp is truly, in a sense, meant to be kind of emphasizing the silliness of certain forms without overly signposting them or getting too ironic about it. Like, I think that's the difference between camp and irony.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I want to use that to sort of lead into our discussion of Charles Busch, who wrote this movie. Because I was reading some about him. He started in the theater doing off-Broadway stuff that he wrote. He was I think he helped found some sort of like big like LGBT New York theater company, something like that. But his whole what he was famous for, or what he was known for, is in pretty much all of his acting roles, he does them in drag. He plays women. And as you mentioned, in the stage play of Psycho Beach Party, which came out in 1987, he played the lead role, Chiclet. And the reason that he did not for the movie is because at that point, it was, 13 years later, he thought that he was much too old for the role. So he actually wrote the detective character for this movie for himself to play, because he didn't want to play the 16-year-old girl. But I was reading on his Wikipedia that he has sort of an aversion to people describing his work as camp because of the perceived negative connotations that word often has for most people. When he says that, he kind of agrees. It's like, yeah, I guess it technically is camp, but the way that most people talk about camp is in the sense of like, it's so bad that it's good. And that's not really what he's trying to do as an artist. And I think that really jives with what you were saying, Ben, that the difference between camp and irony is the sincerity behind it. That like he's not like, this is a comedy, this is a satire of a specific era of filmmaking and a genre of film, but it is sincere in its craft. And I think if that's apparent, and that's often what I find charming. Like, I like plenty of things about Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, but that movie is like ironic top to bottom.
Yes. By design,
and by design, and like I have more than my fair share of irony poisoning. I will never say that I don't enjoy ironic humor, but I don't know. I think for something like that, it's like at a certain point, it feels, Dude Bro Party Massacre for me feels kind of alienating, because there's like not. I don't want to say there's no sincerity. Like, I think they're sincere about their craft too, but I don't know. I like something that takes its world and story a little bit more seriously. And I think this movie does that. Like, it's still trying to be funny, It's not trying to be like, dramatic, serious, but like it approaches its craft seriously.
Yep.
And I think that it achieves that pretty well. And like you said earlier, Cleve, that like you thought the cinematography was pretty bad, and it's like I don't
Some
disagree with
examples,
you. I don't disagree with you, but also like that's what those kind of cheap like surf beach party movies looked like in the early 60s.
Corman produced stuff.
Yeah, super cheap, sort of, shooting from the hip. I was reading that apparently in this movie they had such a low budget that they had to do most things in 1 or 2 takes. They did not have the luxury of shooting multiple takes for a lot of stuff. And honestly, like normally I think that would be a problem, but it does sort of capture that kind of run and gun ethos of, like you mentioned, Ben, like a Roger Corman, that like, yeah, it's kind of dirty. It's kind of, it's cheap and schlocky. Like sometimes the boom mic is in the shot or whatever. Not in this movie. I'm just using this sort of kind of a general example. But at the same time, like it still has a sort of like high degree of craft that like, I don't know. It's just, this is the type of movie that charms me. I have a hard time being cynical about this kind of thing in the way that I am about other movies.
Yeah, I feel like I'm glad you brought up Black Dynamite, because I do think that is the shining example of like the intent and shared goals of this film. Black Dynamite is like one of my favorite films, comedy or otherwise.
It's
movies
one of the
ever.
funniest movies of the century. Yeah.
I try to I try and fail to avoid like it's the best of the whatever, but like Black Dynamite really is like it's like one of the funniest goddamn movies to me. You're right. And I think that like the editing in Black Dynamite is like both like a love letter to blaxploitation films and like equal parts and like endless opportunities for bits. Like in there are moments where somebody will say something like, and they're listening to us all the time and the fucking boom mic will drop down or, some shit like that. Or like the editing is intentionally like played up to incorporate like accidental continuity errors and things. Like there's so much attention to detail in that movie. And like every little, like a character will be crying and the tear will switch sides on their cheek back and forth, like between shots. And I was sort of missing that in this film. I felt like when things were lazy and slapdash, it's because, yes, things were in that era, but, like, it wasn't contributing anything to that beyond it. In the same capacity, I sort of felt about the beginning, where it's like, it's funny at first, like, oh, wow, yeah, it is Dancing Girl, like James Bond, or, name your 60s film, like, intro credits, which often were very cheap, but, like, and then what? And I personally just felt like I needed a little bit more of that for like comedic nourishment and to get something from it. But again, I really respect it. I appreciate the argument about like camp and like that understanding of like, not necessarily trying to take it to the complete nth degree and just, all out parody. But I don't know, maybe I just I've been on my phone too dang long or something, and I just needed just a little bit more for it personally to get something out of it.
You weren't even on our Clown in the Cornfield episode last week, but yeah, the kids be on their phones too damn much, and watch out for your boomer parents are going to dress up like clowns and come murder you for being on your damn phone too much.
Damn, what a shame.
Yeah, because you can't enjoy classic cinema like Psycho Beach Party.
Like, yeah, and I want to also touch on your note about like it taking its world seriously. I like that. I think that there's equal parts truth to that as well. That to even kind of further cement that point, it's a funny world that they take seriously. But my issue there is like there were several aspects of the cinematography that did take me out of the world. The main one that it's like the only note I really took, but there is a scene where they're all hanging out at the beach and they encounter a new mysterious woman coming out of this building, and they approach her, and it's an old actress, and it's the lady from the intro film that they're watching at the drive-in, which is a neat little
with the three heads. I really love that.
B-movie intro. There is some cute commentary there, and but the protagonist's like nerdy friend comes up, and she gives her a job. She becomes like this actress's intern, and there's a scene where she's mulling it over, or there's a moment where she's mulling it over, and it's from the perspective of the other people standing and looking at the actress, and the nerdy girl with the glasses is in that shot, and she's like about to say yes or no, and then it cuts back to like what would be an over the shoulder, but she's in that shot too. And it was like really confusing. She's almost like looking at herself in the scene because of like the way that they like flip the 180, and like we had to take it back and like look at it. It's like, wait, is she like, is that another character? Like, or what is that? And it's like, yeah, like it looked like she was reacting to herself. It was like really like poorly shot. And like, I get that like these movies were, but also to the degree here where it's like, what's the joke? Like, what's the bit other than it's just not quality?
I didn't notice that at all.
I didn't notice that either, honestly.
Yeah.
It really didn't bother me. I think again, like that's, you know, I agree that like it's pointing towards flaws in stuff like Roger Corman Pictures, but like much like Roger Corman Pictures, like with movies like this where everything is shot in 1 or 2 takes, most of it is built in the edit room, and it might have been a case where they just had to work with what they had ultimately, even if it didn't make perfect sense. And I would assume that would be the culprit in that case.
I think you're probably right, and I think that just in this case, the output isn't very compelling.
I'm just curious, Cleveland. I don't ask this to be patronizing.
I wouldn't think so.
By any means. So don't take
Gave you
it
some
this way.
charity.
But have you seen much like Roger Corman stuff?
Probably
Like,
not too much. No.
The 60s and 70s, like his brand of sort of like shoot an entire film in like a week and then cobble it together. Like I wonder, like,
that maybe will be part of the problem is I just haven't seen enough of the source material. But like again, I love this era of films. But
I grew up watching a lot of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Never seen an episode of it.
That was one of the most common targets for that show. So I've seen quite a few of these, and so it has a special charming element to me just from that alone.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is because I do think that, like, yeah, I am not like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 devotee or anything, but like I've definitely seen my fair share of like 60s and 70s Roger Corman movies, and sort of know the type of movie that this movie is parodying or is aping or whatever. And I think that like when I sort of try to remove myself from that context and look at it from a perspective of somebody who maybe hasn't seen as much of that stuff, I can see how certain things about this movie would be off-putting, maybe. And you know, obviously I think that every work of art to a large degree should be able to stand on its own. But you know, I do think that like when you're making like a work of art that so heavily references other things, that so heavily leans on tropes and stylistic choices and stuff like that, that's like trying to make itself a representation of something else, that it does help to have, you know, the context of what it's, or at least like the language, the same language that it's speaking, I guess. So I don't know, that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, it may. I just, yeah, again, it all goes back to like, again, like the just our differing points with like the, and again, I'm not trying to convince, but like with the I wouldn't want, this is kind of my problem is I'm not trying to take anyone's joy, you know, when I have these critiques. That's not what I want to be doing right now. But like, you know, again, like with the intro, with the intro, right? Like, again, it's very much a Bond thing. I've seen every Bond movie, and like, again, I do sit there and I say like, oh yeah, I appreciate like what they're, you know, what they're pulling from. Like, I do appreciate that, like, and even the accuracy of it. But again, like, to me, it's like, I need a little more than that. I need them to bring something of their own to the table. And I guess this movie does, like, it does incorporate the horror element and the rest, I suppose. And, like, it's a charming enough love letter, but it's just, again, for me, like, I don't know, I can't force myself to laugh at these things.
That's fair. I think to me, You were talking about how this felt juiceless to you. To me, the juice was all of the character quirks and the dialogue.
Yeah,
Um,
conceptually, yes. Like, and again, like I think that there was like character and there were like cute ideas, like I was saying, like with the failed actress and like, oh, she was in, Plan 9 from Outer Sex or whatever, but she liked the first one that had integrity, but the other five didn't. That kind of stuff is cute on paper and it reads well, but the problem is like because they're getting these things in one or two shots, like the dialogue is stilted, which again, yes, accurate to the era, but like the delivery suffers. And like, so it doesn't have that same like zhuzh, that same like liveliness and timing, which is to me essential to comedy.
I actually don't agree that the delivery is not there. I think that the line reading for a lot of stuff is stilted, but I think that's again by design. I think that that's because that's how these movies are. And I think there are actually a handful of performances here that impressed me, because I agree with you, Ben. I think where this movie really shines for me is the characters. None of the set pieces are particularly memorable, I don't think, but for me there are lots of memorable characters here.
yeah,
And something that is interesting about the cast too is that the cast is made up almost entirely of like TV actors. Like, there are a lot of faces where it's like, I feel like I've seen this person in something, but I can't quite, I don't quite know for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
they're all
the Surfer King guy. Like I think he went on to play. Yeah, Naka. He went on to play a TV cop for 11 years after this, I believe.
I mean, not only that, he was that's Thomas Gibson. He is Greg in Dharma and Greg, the long running 90s and early 2000s sitcom. Like that's
Not
never
familiar.
that's never a sitcom that I was into as a child. I was more of a Seinfeld guy, but like yeah, Dharma and Greg was pretty big, and he was Greg. And like Beth Broderick, who plays Chiclet's mother, was in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She was one of the aunts, which was on TV
Yes.
at the same time as this movie. I think the lead, Lauren Ambrose, I think she was in Buffy. She was in, she's been in a lot of other TV stuff. Yeah, I mean this movie is full of TV character actors, especially like 90s TV character actors. But I mean, of course, the biggest name in this movie, who was not a big name at the time, is of course Amy Adams.
the night bitch herself.
The night bitch herself, Amy Adams. I believe this was her second film ever. And honestly, I think she's great in this. I think her character is very funny. She plays the kind of like stereotypical like ditzy blonde popular girl who's, kind of the foil to our protagonist's more like tomboyish sort of like hard up for love kind of character. And I think the whole like shtick that Amy Adams is doing in this is very funny.
Yeah, she brings a certain horny energy to everything. That is certainly present in a lot of the other characters as well. I mean, especially being, kind of supposed to be teenagers. They're very horny characters, but hers in particular is constantly trying to score and failing in funny ways.
Yeah, like they early on they like go to the beach and like she's just trying to like hit on all of the surfer guys, but then Chiclet wants to, she wants to learn how to surf. She wants to be accepted for, like being one of them. She wants to be accepted into the group. She doesn't just want to be, like somebody that is like I don't know, eye candy or whatever. I do want to another character I really like that I want to circle back to is the character that you already mentioned, Cleve, the sort of nerdy friend Burdine. I think that it like it's actually one of my favorite recurring jokes throughout the film, that she has this obsession with this B-movie actress who's in these sex kitten like they're literally called Sex Kitten, like all of these like sex kitten movies, but she views them through like an extreme like feminist but also like specifically nihilist lens, that she's like saying that I think in one of the early scenes she's comparing the actress, what's the character's name, Bettina Barnes, to the Nietzschean Ubermensch. At one point in one of her little screeds, she mentions Jean-Paul Sartre. So like I think that like this character looking at these like Ed Wood level like schlocky B movies as like these sort of heightened like philosophical feminist nihilist texts is, I think that's very funny. That always made me laugh.
Yeah.
I think that again, it's a fun character quirk. These are all like fun, quirky characters.
Even the secondary surfers have texture, like the psych major guy who keeps bringing up, specific ailments, or
Starcat.
yeah, Starcat, or the other two that are, closeted gay guys who keep wrestling and oiling each other up. And one of them is constipated and can't figure out a solution for it.
Yeah, and the ultimate payoff to that joke is when they finally realize, like, are willing to admit that they are in love with each other. That then all of a sudden he's able to poop. Like that's what's
it's a lot of like little texture
a funny
to these
joke.
characters. Yeah.
I think that's a funny joke.
What did you guys think of the sort of murder mystery aspect of this movie? Because they almost play it up like a Giallo killer at times, with the black gloved murder, stabbing kids or decapitating kids, or chopping them to pieces and leaving body parts thrown about. I found it fun.
I don't know. I just felt like I'd seen it before.
Did you like the creativity of some of the kills? Like, I think of the drive-in sequence where like the decapitated head is like chucked, or like them finding little bits and pieces of
the little
like,
bits
the
on the
beach.
Yeah, that got a chuckle out of me. Like, yeah, the little bits on the beach and stuff. Like I said, like I think on paper for me, like there's a lot of great jokes here, but I don't know. There's something about like the delivery that I don't know. It made it kind of lost on me. Where again, I would like kind of like quietly chuckle to myself at like the idea of it, or thinking back on it, like yeah, I think that's a funny idea, but it almost made me resent like it more. I don't know.
I think the slasher stuff is kind of the weakest part of the movie. I don't think it's bad per se. I think it's narratively a little bit muddled. I think that some of that is by design. I think despite that, it makes it a little bit tricky to follow at times, just because there's a lot of red herrings. Like it is, ostensibly a whodunit. There is a black glove killer, Giallo style, but the biggest red herring or whatever is, Chicklet has multiple personalities, like that are sort of triggered by seeing circles. Like she'll look at circles and they start spinning, and like one of her personalities will come out, and every time she blacks out, like somebody is when somebody dies. But then there's also, the surf god guy, like, what are his motivations? He has a history with the detective, and she has reason to believe that like he might be suspicious. There's a lot of threads that kind of go nowhere. And again, I think this is partially by design, but it's not like necessarily the most engaging. And in terms of like the kills and stuff, I think they're fine. I just wish they went a little bit farther. Again, like
Sure.
so much of this movie reminds me of a John Waters movie, and sort of the lack of I don't know, gonzo set pieces in the way
Yes.
that John Waters does. Like I wish this movie, I appreciate it as a parody of 60s surf movies. I like it as a parody of 60s surf movies. But if it's going to combine that with slashers, I wish it went a little bit more exploitation-y. Because I think that some of its restraint in terms of kills and stuff is, I don't know, maybe like a little bit, like Cleveland was saying, like sort of dedication to the era to a fault. Because like there wasn't anything remotely gory in the 60s, you know? Like
Right.
shit
Well, it's
like
like you would just play further into the aesthetics of it. Even like that's really to me all it takes. Like looking at another like film that satirizes horror movies, like of a similar era, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like it's full of that, right? Like it doesn't get particularly gory, but like it understands how to like revel in the aesthetics and to bring it to that nth degree. Like I said, like when I was really surprised when I looked up productions of the stage play and I saw like the big fucking foam wigs and stuff, and like I just really like think like where was that? Like where was the fun? Like the crazy hair and like all the rest of it. Like they said they go for like a more faithful depiction, and in that I think that there's some of that
yeah.
like zany fun is lost. Like because I love that, I love zany shit.
Because Charles Busch comes from a drag background, like I think it makes sense that the stage stuff is like a little bit more overtly drag influenced. I think that like, you know, saying that you want more of that in this movie is not wrong. I think it's a matter of personal preference. Again, like I think that for a big part of what makes this movie work for me is how sort of faithfully it sort of captures the cinematic feel of the early 1960s. And I think that if you had really gone, I think you could still keep the cinematic aspects of it and push the
Yeah.
gore farther. But I think if it had been like more like too draggy, I don't know, that it might have, then it would have sort of stopped feeling like that. I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like I'm sort of basing that off of what I'm imagining, more so
Yeah.
than, you know, seeing it in practice.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree that like the kills and like the slasher element was very restrained, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But much like a lot of other elements of the movie, I feel like there's just enough of a quirk or texture to it that it just works as fun for me. Like I think the thing that carries it over the edge for me in that respect is uh Captain Monica Stark realizes that everyone who gets killed has some sort of physical abnormality or imperfection, and once that's emphasized, they really kind of push that a little bit further. Like at one point, a character introduces himself with having 6 fingers, or
Oh,
like and it's just like that little bit of dramatic irony is enough to kind of push it over beyond kind of just generic slasher into something a little more clever.
I like the Monica Stark character too, played by Charles Busch in drag. I think that this is a character that if this was written by somebody different, I mean, I guess what I'm really trying to say, if it was written by a straight person, I feel like the character, there would be the impulse for that character to be like really over the top and that like make the joke be that it's a man in drag. Maybe it's just because I watched the fucking like rewatched scary movie movies recently, where I'm kind of like thinking about that, where it's like in that first movie, like the gym teacher is just like it is just like a insanely offensive, distasteful like bit with the gym teacher being like a man dressed like a woman. And I think that what I appreciate about this movie is that that's not like the joke, that it treats it seriously, and Charles Busch treats his performance seriously, but the character is still a fun character. Like it's still a character who makes jokes and a character that you can laugh at, but the joke is not that it's a man in drag. And I don't know, I found that kind of refreshing, especially because this movie came out the same year as the first Scary Movie.
Yeah, like I would certainly I certainly agree with that. If anything, I think my kind of emphasis on this at the beginning of the film reinforces that like I just wanted more of that, like more of just like just having fun as drag characters, right? Like and why I really am sad that like they didn't do drag for the protagonist like in the original stage play, because like I think that there's a lot of room there, and like it kind of it's just made me like rethink this entire movie. Like I'm still just kind of stuck on that and like how much fun it could be.
It could be fun if more of the characters were in drag, but also at the same time, like I think Lauren Ambrose is actually very good in this movie.
Yeah, and I think one of the strongest elements is the kind of multiple personality dual role that she has to play. Like I think the Anne Barnes character that she plays feels very distinct from the Chicklet character, and
Bowden, I think.
Anne Bowden, Anne Barnes, something. I don't really.
I think it's Anne Bowden. She says
it's Bowman. Yeah.
Bowman. Yes.
Bowman.
Right,
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Teamwork, guys. We got there eventually. Anne Bowman. Yes.
But yeah, I liked her. I thought she was good. Let's not forget she also does like a jive talk character as well.
That is about the one thing in the movie that I think has aged poorly.
Black scent jump scare.
Yep.
To her credit, from an acting perspective, I think she does a good job.
I don't think
is it distasteful?
Oh,
yes. Yes, it is. But she's also like she didn't write her own character, so I'm not gonna put that on her. Yes, I just
was pretty funny, which is its ultimate crime.
I just did my whole screed about how it's great that they didn't make a joke of one of the characters being a man in drag, but they do
they do that
some distasteful African American vernacular, but thankfully that persona of Chiclets does not make an appearance all that often.
They basically do a rule of threes with it. Yeah, like maybe 4 times. Like
yeah. It's much more the Anne Bowman character that we mentioned, who is sort of the opposite of Chiclet. She's very in control. She's very take charge,
dominant.
Very dominant, in touch with her sexuality, and I do think that it's kind of like, it's not particularly original, but I do enjoy the gag that the great Kanaka, the surf god character, is in love with that personality, but not the Chiclet personality, because like, oh, Chiclet, she's just a kid, but Anne Bowman is a woman, Like I think that's a funny little bit. And I think that, especially as the movie goes on and the actress has to sort of turn these different personas on and off, I think she handles it very well, like very convincingly. Like the Chicklet character is, does have this kind of sort of over the top, wide eyed, like 60s teenager thing that is, not necessarily the most realistic, but I think for the type of character that she's playing, that she really nails it.
Yeah.
In the same way that Amy Adams does, frankly. And honestly, like, yeah, I think that the performances across the board here for the assignment that they're given are, I think, pretty great. Again, like the characters are where the movie really shines for me. The set pieces and the story are kind of secondary to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the play on expectations, again, kind of help with some of that. With, characters kind of having just a little bit more texture than you initially expect for a movie like this.
Yeah, especially for like how many characters there are. I think that like most of them are pretty identifiable. Like, I don't feel like I was ever like, who is this character? And like, for the number of characters that there are in the movie, that's not easy to do.
Yeah. Cleve, what did you think of the exchange student character?
The Swedish kid.
Yeah. Funny accent. They gave him some good like words in the script. They gave him some like good enunciated words that are particularly funny in Swedish or with a Swedish accent.
Yeah, it's very much like a Swedish chef style accent.
Yeah,
like,
but he's no Muppet.
he's no Muppet, but honestly, he was one of my favorite secondary characters. Like, I really enjoyed whenever he popped up. I was mentioning to Ben, I think that actor, at least in this movie, looks a lot like Nick Mullen, and maybe it's just because he's also doing like a sort of caricature voice. Much taller than Nick Mullen, but I guess like every time he showed up, it's sort of the movie sort of took on a sort of Come Town style, flavor that I appreciated. Speaking of being irony poisoned. But I mean, yeah, I guess we can obviously do spoily things like the twist at the end of the movie. Speaking of the Swedish character, is that he's the killer all along. They kind of do one of those things where it's like they set up a bunch of possible killers and then surprise, it's none of them. It's this other joke character that wanders in to the movie every now and then to do a funny voice. I do think it is particularly funny that the character turns out to not be Swedish. That makes the heightened Swedish accent funnier to me.
Yeah.
That like nobody second guessed it when it's like clearly just like a guy doing like a Swedish chef style kind of voice.
Yeah, the idea that he's in deep cover and has to, not break character at any moment. Very good.
And he's the there's this whole thing about the beach house that the actress is staying in is this old like spooky house where there's a family where they all died and it's supposed to be haunted or whatever. And so like the reveal is that the Swedish kid is the one surviving member of that family, and he killed all of his family members because they all had various disabilities. Like his dad was deaf and his mom was blind or something, so on and so forth. And he's obsessed with the idea of physical perfection. So he only wants to kill people who are disabled in some way. Which brings us to the most problematic thing about this movie, is that it's ableist.
Well, it has an anti-ableist message when you think.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Right.
He is the villain ultimately, and gets thrown off the top of the marquee at the drive-in and dies.
Which was fun. I'm glad they got back to the drive-in to kind of bookend things.
The movie starts
it feels
there.
very apt.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, for this type of movie, I feel like a drive-in is kind of like like a classic set piece for this era of movies, for a movie about teens. Where do the teens hang out? Two places: the beach and the drive-in. So it's perfect that the final struggle with the killer takes place there. I mean, I think we can start wrapping up here. It doesn't seem like Cleveland has much more to say. I will say, Ben and I both, the very ending, they got us. Like, they successfully did a rug pull on us because
I
they
said
do this.
"oh no" out loud when they cut to the hospital.
We both did. We both sort of like started being like, "Oh, come on," because they do this thing where it's like, throughout the course of the movie, through defeating the Swedish guy and her inner demons, like Chicklet is cured of her multiple personalities or whatever. But then we cut to her waking up in a hospital, and all of the doctors and nurses are the people, that we've seen, other characters that we've seen in the movie. And so they try to do, they start doing this thing where it's like, oh, the whole thing was a hallucination of her, crazy mind or whatever. And Ben and I were getting so fucking mad because we'd been enjoying this movie and we're like, come on, this is how you're gonna fucking end this shit? God damn it. And so they strap her to a table and they put the electroshock therapy thing on her head and they start zapping her, and then it pulls out from the screen at the drive-in and pulls down to a car with a couple in it, and they're like, oh, it was just a dream all along. This is lame. It's just basically just kind of like echoing our reaction to it. And then it's sort of like a little punctuation point at the end. Chicklet pops up out of the back seat with a knife and stabs one of them, and then it cuts to credits. No, I don't know. I could probably do without that last little bit at the end, but at the same time, as just sort of like a final little like subversion of expectation or whatever, as a joke, basically. I don't know. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, it took me by surprise a little bit.
Yeah, and I appreciated that they used the false ending as like a subversion of expectation, because I think it would have really soured a lot of the movie for me if they had taken that angle sincerely, that like she actually was in an insane asylum and the whole movie was a hallucination. I would not have enjoyed that turn of events. Anyway, any final thoughts, boys? Cleve, you got anything else to add?
Nope.
Ben, you got anything? Or is it time to rate the damn thing?
I found the music to be fun. Surf music.
Yeah, a lot of surf rock. I think they had an actual band do some stuff. I like during the luau scene, the band, they're all wearing luchador masks.
That was fun.
That was very fun. I liked all of that. It's just fun flavor. I guess I'll start because I suspect that I will have the highest rating. We can go in descending order this time. I don't think the movie is perfect, but I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it, how charming I found it, as sort of like a I don't know, diet John Waters kind of movie. Like, I think it could have pushed some boundaries a little bit farther, but as a sort of parody of 60s movies, like, I think that it commits and does a really good job with the, very small budget it had. I saw the movie had a budget of $1.5 million, and it made substantially less than that. At the box office, if you can believe it. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably higher than it deserves, but I really enjoyed my time with this movie. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Ben?
I'm also going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, really?
I had a blast with this one. I laughed quite a bit, and had a good time. It was fun. It was very low stakes, and honestly, coming in with very low expectations helped quite a bit for this one for me. So
yep. All right, Cleve, bring that average down.
All right, I will. Like, like I said at the top, my experience with this film was just sort of feeling it wash over me, and when it was gone, only pain remained, or something stupid. I don't know, man. Again, like I almost resent it more for like being in a position to like where I have to like dig into gripes I had with it. I don't take any joy from being the stop having fun guy or anything. Like, I'm really glad that you guys had a good time with it. I like the movies. I like that y'all like movies, and I like liking movies with my friends. I just didn't with this one, and and frankly too, I think once again, like, I just to further to carry your own points, Tease. Like, it's not Black Dynamite. It's Diet John Waters, and for that, like, for my personal experience out of the film, I'm going to give it, I think, a 2.5. Doesn't feel right to me.
I think that this is just what happens when you bail out on the podcast for 2 weeks, where we talk about like actually not very good movies, and we have a bad time, and you don't have to be a part of them. So
I'm so
then
sorry.
you come back, and even though we're watching a good movie, the universe makes you have a bad time with it, like a compounded bad time.
It's
Well,
either
it's like
that or decent art. My standards have lowered so much in the past 2 weeks.
Well, it's like they say, hunger is the best spice, and I think you guys were just particularly hungry and craving.
That could be. I mean, in fairness, I've watched a lot
I'm
of.
watching noir movies this week. I watched Detour the other day. It was fucking sick.
Ooh,
like,
Detour is great.
yeah, I'm nourished.
Yeah.
I'm nourished, homie. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's so good. We'll talk about it sometime.
Outside of the podcast, I'm very well nourished. I've been watching a lot of good movies myself, but yeah. At
Oh,
least
yeah,
in
you
terms
have.
of, like, at least in terms of like stuff that we've talked about on the podcast, like the last 2 weeks have just been. It was nice to, I don't know, talk about something fun again. But anyway, that will give Psycho Beach Party an average of 3.3 out of 5. It is on Tubi. Again, it's a very low stakes film, so divisive here on the show a little bit. But go watch it for yourself and form your own opinions. And I think if you like low budget camp, and you like Roger Corman run and gun style movies, then this might be a good one for you. Or you might be like Cleveland, and it might wash over you like an elderly person's fart or whatever.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Experience may well differ. Again, I wouldn't not recommend this film. Like, I think there's a time and place for the movie, and again,
I think it's fine for you to not recommend this film. You didn't enjoy it, so I think it's acceptable for you to not.
I think I can do both. Like, I can not enjoy the movie and not recommend it. Like, I'm not recommending it either, but I think I can be neutral on it at least. I think that's fine.
Your recommendation agnostic.
Yeah.
Anyway. Let's move on because we have some housekeeping to take care of.
Yes, we do.
We have lots of prediction results to get caught up on. We have 4 weeks of new films that we've covered that we predicted, and we need to distribute some points. So, Ben, let's fucking do it.
All right, we got a full-on roundup here. So I'll start with Sinners, which we watched almost a month ago at this point. I guess basically a month ago. As we all know, Sinners has done incredibly well. I predicted it would do 34 million opening weekend. Cleve, you predicted 7 million. And Tease, you predicted 10 million.
Oh, I hope I'm wrong.
Opening weekend was 48 million.
Yeah.
One of the best R-rated opening weekends of all time.
Very, very happy to be wrong there. Okay.
Yeah, Sinners has been doing gangbusters.
Yes. Rotten Tomatoes critics, I said 84. Cleve, you said 87. Tisu said 72. As of right now, it's sitting at 97.
Hell yeah, that's to me, baby.
Yeah, very, very high.
It deserves.
Yes. Rotten Tomatoes audience, I said 88. Cleve, you said 60. And Tisu said 78. With the
you, Ben.
audience, it's also doing very well. It's at 96.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Good. The love for Sinners has been so gratifying, dude. I'm just so happy to be part of like a fucking monoculture for just a moment, you know?
Yeah,
Like where
you
it's like,
know,
yeah, I love this and everyone else loves this. It's so it becomes such a rare thing. Like it's been so fucking nice, dude.
yeah, and you know, I didn't love it, but like I'm still very happy for its success, and
Oh
frankly,
yeah.
I'm kind of blown away by both the critical and audience consensus to it. Like this is I can't remember like, and I rated it generally positively as well, but I can't remember the last movie where I was this like on the other side of the general consensus for stuff. But hey, you know what? Again, I think it just goes to show that the collective unconscious of the American movie-going public yearns for big budget original blockbusters not tied to IP bullshit,
Yeah.
and I know they won't, but god damn, I hope the studios learn from Sinner's success. I know they will not. I know they'll only take the wrong lessons for it, but I can at least hope.
Yeah. Well, there's only a couple of like creators and directors out there like in a position and with that creative ability like Ryan Coogler. So like it's just yeah, like it's a narrow resource and they have to know to target it. Then they won't. But like every once in a while we get finally some good fucking food, And like but yeah, you're right. Like people do see quality at the end of the day. At the least they feel it. And
It's
it goes
like
to show.
firmly in the middle of like my list of films that I've seen so far this year. But like, yeah, man, again, it's an original big budget high concept movie, and it's like
On film, fucking, like it's a it's a movie lover's movie.
Yeah, but not even. It's doing well with everybody, even with
Yeah.
people who don't go to the movies all that often. Like it is a true crowd pleaser. I think it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm talking out of my ass here, but like it feels like the biggest like crowd pleaser since like Top Gun Maverick. I don't know, maybe Oppenheimer, maybe Barbenheimer collectively.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think unlike, at least Barbie is like, this feels like very much a passion project of original IP.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of shows in how little it dropped off from first to second weekend. Like, it did incredibly well on the second weekend as well. Like,
Yeah,
one of
I
the
think
best.
wasn't it something absurd, like it had like a 7% drop off from like weekend 1 to 2. Maybe
yeah.
it wasn't that low, but it was something absurd.
I think
Like
because
something you just
this
never-
movie was constructed into twofold. Like it was created like as just a great film for whatever type of singular viewing experience. I'm sure it's gonna be just as nice to watch at home. But like this movie was very carefully crafted in terms of its timing for collective viewing. Like the collective viewing experience was very well considered over the all of the beats of Sinners, and I don't think that can be the same. The same can be said for any of those other examples. I think that like they're all great movies to watch collectively, but like they weren't like they didn't feel so tailored for it in the same capacity.
The cinematic experience is considered, obviously, when you listen to Ryan Coogler talk about it. And the videos where he goes over all the aspect ratios and shooting on IMAX and all of that stuff, which I feel like, there are fewer and fewer movies that have like the true cinematic experience taken into consideration, but the ones that do consistently perform well, right? Like people like to talk about the death of cinema, but you look at movies like Top Gun Maverick, you look at movies like Oppenheimer. I didn't see Barbie, but like that was a big theatrical experience. You look at movies like Avatar 2, Fucking Avatar haters stay seething, brother. But like,
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I think Ryan Coogler's promo on like 12 per film strips was one of the greatest pieces of film marketing in decades. Like, I think, it's someone genuinely sharing their passion authentically and giving people a reason to go out and see it in the theaters rather than waiting and seeing it at home. Like,
right. Yeah, it just goes to show if you cater to a theatrical experience, you can still fucking get people out to the goddamn theaters. You fucking can. Anyway, let's move on. This was a tangent.
Yeah.
Do we have additional comments for this one?
Yeah, we have some miscellaneous predictions. I said it's a twin movie, so Michael B. Jordan has to kill and will kill Michael B. Jordan. I got close, but not quite.
Yeah, you got the ethos correct.
Yeah.
There's a fake out with it.
Yeah, Cleve, you said it will do less than its budget, and the reasons will be blamed on superficial observations.
I am so glad I was wrong. I've never been happier to be fucking wrong. Are you? Yeah. It was made with love and care and craft, and so they didn't have to blame it on superficial reasons. And that's so much better. I'm so glad we do live in a world where that happens sometimes. Thank God.
Yeah.
It's like that keep me from fucking anyway. Carry on.
Tease, you said Ryan Coogler is free from Marvel jail, but not its influences. Story and character will suffer in favor of empty spectacle.
Yeah, I wasn't really right. I wasn't right with that either, really. I think that there are lingering.
I do too.
I mean, mid and end credit. Singers.
Like I think I actually, as much as I love the film, I think like if it has any trappings, it's those those aspects.
But I will say I do not think that story and character suffered as much as I was expecting, and I don't think that I wouldn't describe anything in the movie as empty spectacle. Certain aspects of the spectacle did not work for me. See my critiques on like the big dance sequence with all the cultural anachronisms inserting themselves, so on and so forth. But I don't think any of this is empty spectacle. So I'm happy to be wrong about that one.
Well, next we have our predictions of the Shrouds, and as a reminder, this is carryover from last year when we thought the Shrouds was coming out last year.
Oh yes.
So we predicted some different things here. So I'll start with box office. I predicted 400,000. Cleve, you predicted 2.5 million. TC predicted 3 million. I hate to tell you guys. It did $49,000 opening weekend.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me, but goddamn, dude. I can't blame David Cronenberg for being like, yeah, people can watch movies on their phones, whatever. When those are the type of numbers that he's pulling opening weekend these days, like.
Well, also, like, very particularly with this film, like, it had no marketing. Like,
yeah,
Crimes of the Future had ad runs, dude. Like, very different.
Crimes of the Future was distributed by Neon, and they actually market the movies. The
very limited in a number of screens for this one too. Yeah, I can pull up the amount of screens here. Opening weekend, it was on 279 screens, compared to the standard opening of a Sinners or something like that of like 3,000 screens.
So it was 49,000 opening weekend by 217 screens. 17? Is that what you said?
279.
279. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So opening weekend, it averaged $175 per screening, which.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so actually. Yeah, I have slightly better news. So I'm looking at Box Office Mojo. Usually I pull the opening weekend from IMDb, but I'm looking at Box Office Mojo right now, and I think the $49,000 is unfair. And the reason I say that is it has the opening weekend date of the 18th through the 20th, but it only lists it opening for those in 3 screens. And then the next week it was in 279. So
What?
the second weekend it did much better. So it must have had like a limited premiere that they counted for whatever reason.
Oh,
it
weird.
The
did-
second weekend, which is the one we should count, did 292,000. Still
Okay,
not
so
great.
You still get that, but that's better. That's better.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even so, I don't know. David Cronenberg is a living legend. It's sad that It's sad that he had to struggle so hard to get distribution for The Shrouds. It's sad that it's in so few theaters. It's sad that so few people care about David Cronenberg. But whatever. What were the Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes?
So,
Let's keep moving.
we just predicted critics for this one.
Yes.
Holdover from last year. I predicted 58. Cleve, you predicted 87. TCU predicted 90. Right now, it's sitting at 75. So Cleve gets
Boo.
that one.
Boom.
I don't really want to get that one, but I will take it.
The critics are.
I mean,
like-
in fairness, it's a bit of a divisive one. Even
Yeah.
though we liked it, I can understand it not being the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know how I made a big deal about how I can understand people not liking it on the episode, but right now, the way I'm feeling, if you don't like the Shrouds, you're a fucking stupid piece of.
Okay, so we predicted our collective rating.
Oh.
I said 3.5. Cleve, you said 5. TC said 4.6. So just by me giving it a 4 or a 4.5, I think it was a 4.5 actually.
I think you gave it a 4.5.
Yeah, so I think Tease, you get that one,
And I can recalculate.
or is it a tie?
It's a tie because it's
Okay,
4.8.
it's a tie. Okay.
I'll take it
Well-
though.
Okay, and then we predicted who would like it the most. We all said Tease. I mean, you both gave it a 5, so that works.
We both gave it a 5, but I think I did like it the most.
Yeah, I think so too.
No offense, Cleve.
No, I'll allow it.
It's so generous. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's the least I can do after taking all these points.
In terms of comments, I remember we predicted this after it did its early festival circuit, and the response was pretty divisive back then even.
Yes.
So my comment was a rare Cronenberg L or a misunderstood future classic with a question mark.
The second one.
Yeah.
Well, I think
so-
at the very least it's misunderstood. Will it be a future classic? I don't know.
Yes.
I would like it to be for sure, but I don't know.
Cleve, you said good, but no tummy pussy.
True.
I mean, that is true. Objectively. There was no tummy pussy.
Nailed it. Give me another point.
And then TC said Cleveland will inexplicably fall asleep during this one too.
I didn't.
I
did not.
I'm happy to be wrong about that
Hey,
one.
look, and I can't say this enough. That's because I'd be sleepy. Okay, it has nothing to do with the film itself.
I know.
All right. Yeah. It's just for our audience listening as well. That's very important.
Okay, so moving on. We have 2 more movies to cover, and I'll try to be quick about these. So next is Until Dawn, opening weekend box office. Yeah, Until Yawn, yeah, get their asses. I predicted 19 million. Cleve, you predicted 4 million. TC predicted 6 million. Opening weekend, it did 8 million. So TC, get that one.
Yes.
I'm surprised, honestly. It did 8.
I know how trash performs.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes critics, I predicted 60. And Cleve and Tease, you both predicted 40. Right now, it's sitting at 53. Means I get
Wait,
it.
that means you
Wow,
get it. Yeah.
really?
Oh.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow, really? Critically? 53?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What are the critics smoking?
Yeah, just too charitable. For Rotten Tomatoes audience, I said 64. Cleve, you said 30. And Tease, you said 52. Right now, it's sitting at 68,
What?
which is
What are
baffling.
what are audiences smoking? What is going on? What is going on? Like, I know neither of these numbers are high, but they should be much lower. What the fuck?
Miscellaneous predictions. I said you're going to be able to vote for stuff in the theater. I fucking wish.
Yeah.
Cleve, you said, how do you adapt an already cinematic video game that boasts 256 possible endings? Badly. By trying to juggle the gravitas of story beats made possible by player agency, the story will be messy and unsatisfying.
I think that was me, not Clay.
Oh,
Yeah, that didn't sound like me.
yeah. So yes,
was me.
that was
Yeah.
Tease. I just have it mislabeled here.
And it was
Cleve, you just
100.
said
It was 1,000% correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
mine's gonna be much shorter. Whatever I wrote.
yeah. Cleve, you just said video games. Everyone.
Wrong actually.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Damn. Video
Yeah.
games.
So
Okay. So
But mostly because I know myself, and I knew I wouldn't have the energy to say all that about the film. I would just be like, yeah, it sucks. Moving on. Anyway, carry on. What's the next one?
yes. So next we have Clown in a Cornfield.
clown in a snore field.
Damn.
Get their asses. Okay. So opening weekend, I predicted 5 million, and Cleve and Tease, you both predicted 12 million.
We both predicted 12. That's so crazy.
Yeah. So opening weekend, it did 3.6 million.
Damn, what?
So I get that one. Rotten Tomatoes critics, I said 45. Cleve, you said 75. And Tease, you said 65. Right now it's sitting at 73.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, surprisingly high.
Yeah, very charitable, I guess. Rotten Tomatoes audience, I said 48. Cleve, you said 80. And Tease, you said 64. Right now it's sitting at a 60.
Okay.
Which means
Audiences like it less than critics.
Yes.
That's weird in the case of Clown in a Cornfield, I think. But all right.
Yeah.
I'll take the point.
No, I'll take the point. 48 versus 75? It was a 60.
Oh, did I say 75? I thought I said 60 something. Oh shit. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention, I guess.
Miscellaneous predictions. I said there's going to be a chase through a corn maze. There was a chase through a cornfield. That was kind of labyrinthine.
Yeah. I will say, in the book, there is a corn maze. So they did not put the corn maze into the movie.
Missed opportunity. Cleve, you said the generational conflict at the heart of the story will be clumsily handled and cringy. That was you? Fuck, I got these mixed up again. Well, in that case, Cleve, you're the one who said this. I rolled my eyes until I saw the writer/director. Does lightning strike twice? I don't know. Likely will do fine financially based on the novel's following, but I probably won't like it.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah,
you're the number one fan.
You didn't see it, and it didn't do. It didn't do particularly well.
Yeah,
so.
There you go. All right.
So
any more housekeeping?
A lot of points. We have 2 movies left this half of the year. We got 28 Years Later and Megan Mithrigan 2. So soon enough, we'll know who is picking those mid-year catch-up movies.
Who is the champion? Yeah, well, I guess the last bit of housekeeping is what are we doing next week? It's Cleve's pick.
Yes, it
Cleve,
is.
You want to tell us what we're talking about?
So very recently we covered Tetsuo the Iron Man. It gave me a certain craving. And I want I wanted to cover more. But I didn't want to cover the other Tetsuo films, but I wanted something kind of tangential to that. So instead, we're going to be watching a film that was directed by the spouse of the creator, a little-known film called Pinocchio 964. And that's what we're doing next week. And I haven't seen it. I've seen some like stills of it, and I want to see it. So
I know of this movie, but I have never seen it.
So
Likewise.
in Tetsuo, like the girlfriend, like in Tetsuo, like she does the dream sequence where she does like the weird dance with like the metal dick and all that.
Yeah,
she directed it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm excited to see like what that's all about. So yeah, we're gonna do Pinocchio 964.
All right, Pinocchio 964 next week. Some J-horror, some weirdo J-horror.
Yep.
It'll be, frankly, a refreshing change of pace.
I think so.
But until then, you guys know what to do. If you like the show and want to support us, take like 3 seconds to leave us a 5-star rating and a review. The review can be as short as you can literally be anything.
Yeah, keep it short like I do.
Yeah, keep it. Just say the review can just be podcast.
Video games, everyone.
Video games, everyone. Exactly. But yeah, the more ratings and reviews that we have, the more likely we are to end up in people's recommendations and get more people listening to the show. We all want that, right?
Right.
Because more people listening to the show maybe means more people coming over to patreon.com/podpeoplepod and giving us a few dollars a month for some fun things. Shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, Micah, and Mitchell. I think I forgot to shout them out last week at the end of our Clown of Cornfield episode.
Well, especially big shout out to Micah for recommending this movie.
Yes,
thank you,
Micah. For the Patreon pick. I never would have seen this film otherwise, and I had fun with it, so thank you. But yeah, since I forgot last week, double shout out to the honorary pod boys. Sam, Zach, Mike, and Mitchell are their names, and we love them. And you can also follow us on Letterboxd, Pod People Podcast, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show, with our average ratings and links to those reviews. For my recommendation this week, I don't have anything particularly topical, but I've sort of been getting back into reading again after sort of struggling to get into anything for the last few months. But I've been reading the debut novel from an author that I've recommended before. Ben and I both have, Laird Barron. I'm reading his first novel, The Croning, and it's very spooky. I think that maybe I've said it before, but I feel like Laird Barron is like a really excellent sort of bearer of the Lovecraftian torch. He's got his own sort of spooky cosmic mythos, and I don't know, there are very few authors who are able to make me feel as physically uncomfortable as I get when I read his stuff, and I think for horror it's perfect. So yeah, and The Croning is relatively short. It's like 250 pages. I'm already like halfway through it after maybe a week. So
I gotta piss. I'm gonna keep mine short. I watched a really good noir film called Detour recently. It's a victim of circumstance type of film. And I thought it was fucking excellent. Really, really tight script. Great, like, classic narration over the top. Wonderful cinematography. Great film.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Ben?
Yeah, this movie, Psycho Beach Party had big 60s surf vibes. So I'm going to recommend an incredible 60s surf movie. It's the documentary The Endless Summer, which chronicles the psychology of surf guys in the 60s. And it's a beautifully shot documentary on film, some great beach scenes and whatnot. Really recommended. Awesome little documentary.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for hanging 10 with us cool broskies over here on the fucking beach of podcasting.
Oh yeah.
And until next time, stay crunchy like a crab.
Goodbye. Surfboard too. You see him shooting and surfing. Here to Malibu. Because it's totally bitchin'. Riding waves to blast clay pigeons. And it's so neat shooting ski while you're riding out the heavies all day. First wave, don't get tired. Second wave, aim higher. Third wave, pull in higher. Smooth surfing. It's alright. We're waxing down our surfboards and loading up our tracks. Tell the teacher